If you travel through California, you may very well find a line through the landscape that is the San Andreas Fault. It's one of the most active faults in the world and capable of producing very large earthquakes and other disasters. Recently, scientists have warned that it could be about to do something again. But how is that possible? What exactly is going to happen? And how dangerous is the San Andreas Fault really? Let's dive in. Before we can truly understand what scientists are now warning about and how this discovery can impact our lives, it's important to understand what the San Andreas Fault is. The San Andreas Fault is a large fault line that stretches 750 miles along the west coast of California, stretching from points near the Mexican border to just north of San Francisco. It's part of a larger system of faults known as the San Andreas Fault Zone and is responsible for some of the most powerful earthquakes in history. If you don't know the San Andreas Fault, then you might not think there's much of an issue. After all, it's just a fault line. It can't be that dangerous. But the San Andreas Fault is capable of producing major earthquakes and disasters, and the history of the San Andreas Fault explains everything. The San Andreas Fault has been active since at least the 1700s, when it produced a magnitude 7.8 earthquake that destroyed San Juan Capistrano in 1776. Since then, the fault has caused numerous smaller earthquakes and one major event in 1906. This was an 8.3 magnitude quake known as the San Francisco earthquake, which killed thousands of people and destroyed much of the city. These disasters are not just a thing of the past, and the San Andreas Fault is capable of producing very large earthquakes. In fact, scientists believe that the fault could produce an even larger quake than the one in 1906, and the residents of California need to be prepared for the worst. But what exactly is the extent of the damages that the San Andreas Fault can cause, and why is everyone so worried now? The answer to this question is that no one knows for sure. Scientists are able to predict the probability of earthquakes occurring on a fault line, but there is no way to predict when an earthquake will happen or how large it will be. This means that California residents must be prepared for the worst, and seismologists are now warning that the San Andreas Fault could be about to do something massive. Seismologists have found evidence that suggests that the fault could be becoming more active and is starting to move faster than before. This could indicate that the San Andreas Fault is building up to another major event, and this is why Californians need to be prepared. Beyond this, there's also an incredibly deadly disaster that took place in Turkey and Syria, and something about it has scientists worried. But why would scientists be worried about an earthquake happening on the other side of the world? To understand fully why the recent earthquake in Turkey and Syria have scientists worried, you first need to understand what happened there. The 7.8 magnitude earthquake that struck Turkey and Syria in February destroyed thousands of buildings, killed at least 35,000 people, and injured tens of thousands more. It was the deadliest earthquake in the region since 1939, and it sent shockwaves around the world. This earthquake was an immense tragedy and had devastating, far-reaching consequences. But the reason why it has scientists worried is that the earthquake was eerily similar to what could happen in California. It turns out that the geology underlying Turkey and Syria is very similar to the west coast of the United States. Moreover, the Turkey-Syria earthquake was caused by a subduction zone, which is essentially what the San Andreas Fault is classified as. This means that researchers can learn a lot from this event and apply it to California so that residents can be better prepared for when something similar happens there. The issue, however, isn't the positives that can be gained from the situation in Turkey and Syria. Even though there are plenty of positives and scientific advancements that scientists can glean from this tragedy, it's still a tragedy. And beyond this, it spells almost certain disaster for the people of California who are not prepared for a similar event. So, what would happen if the San Andreas Fault were to produce another earthquake? It's important to realize that many people think the San Andreas Fault is a single fault line, but it's actually an entire system of faults that could be hundreds of miles long. The 1906 earthquake was a magnitude 8.3 and is believed to have been produced by the San Andreas Fault. If you've ever seen the thriller movie titled San Andreas, then you have some idea of the destruction that could be caused. In the movie, a series of massive earthquakes ripple up and down the entirety of the San Andreas Fault and cause massive destruction across California. While this is an entertaining narrative, it's not very realistic. The truth is, each segment of the San Andreas Fault can only produce earthquakes up to a maximum of 248.6 miles long. A single earthquake traversing an even greater length is considered very rare and would likely never happen, even though it's certainly possible. Still, the destruction that could be caused by a major earthquake on the San Andreas Fault is still very real and very dangerous. The 1906 earthquake caused an estimated 700 deaths and an entire city was destroyed. If California wants to prepare for an earthquake, what can be done? The most important thing to do is to educate yourself and be prepared. The first step should be to understand the various sources of risks associated with earthquakes, such as landslides, fires, or tsunamis. You should also learn how to reduce your risk by implementing safety measures, such as making sure homes and businesses are built on safe grounds, stocking emergency supplies and food, and having an evacuation plan in place. Beyond this, though, let's talk about the larger picture. Let's explore what's being done to prepare California for the next big earthquake. California has created the Alquist-Priolo Earthquake Fault Zoning Act, which requires that developers of new or renovated buildings adhere to strict building codes that help reduce the risk of structural collapse in an earthquake. They have also implemented an early warning system that can alert people of incoming earthquakes, giving them time to take cover. Finally, the U.S. Geological Survey is researching ways to better predict earthquakes. For instance, new systems are being tested and they can provide an early warning of an impending earthquake several seconds before it happens. And believe it or not, experts are already on the hunt for the next big earthquake before it even happens. Carl Muller, a professor of geological sciences, recently explained how scientists are using satellites and space-based technology to look for the next big one. They're looking for changes in the Earth's surface that could indicate an earthquake is about to happen, and then using the data to better predict earthquakes. He explained that studies are being done to find the best locations to put sensors and to understand which types of building materials respond best in the event of an earthquake. Beyond this, many scientists in Turkey have teamed up with Shidar Dashti, an associate professor of civil and environmental engineering, to record the devastation that happened in the country and use it to understand California's potential future. The San Andreas Fault is a huge part of California's history, and it has the potential to cause major disasters in the future. Scientists have warned that the fault could be about to do something massive, but we don't know when or exactly what that will be. What we do know is that California residents must be prepared for the worst and educate themselves on how to reduce their risk of injury or death in an earthquake. They can also rely on modern technology and scientists who are working hard to better predict and prepare for the next big one. Still, there's no reason to panic. Although earthquakes are a very real possibility, that doesn't mean there's going to be any apocalyptic events. It's important to stay calm and take the necessary precautions so that you can be safe in the event of an earthquake. That's it for this video, though remember to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you stay up to date on all our future videos, and we'll see you in the next one. And what do you think of the San Andreas Fault? Do you have any tips on how to prepare for an earthquake? Let us know in the comments.